Let's go ahead and get started. All right, today we are going to be talking about becoming your best you. Now, I first want to say that I developed this program initially right around New Year's for a group up in Colorado when I went up there for a training. And as I started to think about it, I got enough positive feedback from that, and I got a good enough feeling from this training that I felt like it was an important enough part that it should become a standard session in our regular training program. And so that's what I've done with this. I've changed it around a little bit so that it's not all about New Year's, but we will be referencing New Year's because that's a big time to make goals. Now, I'm not going to focus a whole lot on goals this week. We're going to be doing that more next week. But I want this week for you to do some stuff that needs to be done before you make your goals. So the homework is going to be very important for you this week. Before I get started, I want to do a special shout out to Academy Mortgage, which is one of our sponsors that allows us to bring this to you guys for free. We really appreciate them. If you don't know a good Academy lender, go out and find one. They've got a great program, and they're one of the nation's largest, if not, they may be the nation's largest private lender as far as purchases go. I know that they rank really high with that, and I've had great experiences with them as well. All right, let's start out today with the background for becoming your best you. One of the challenges that I've noticed is that when people make goals or they have big plans, they have these big aha moments. You know, and if you watch cartoons, or you did watch cartoons when you were a kid, I'm not going to admit to anything. I've got little kids, so yeah, I still see the cartoons. But the light bulb goes off. We can all relate to that. We have that aha moment, some great ideas. We make plans, and then for some reason, they just seem to disintegrate over time. Now, a lot of people take those plans and they actually nail them down a little bit more firm, and they make goals. But then they give up on their goals within a few weeks or even a few days. Now, the timing of this is great. It's not New Year's, but again, I think some work needs to be done before you make your big goals for the year. And so hopefully you guys can take this training today, do the homework, and really get yourself on the right track for making a fantastic year next year for yourself. All right, some quick statistics about goals. First of all, as far as goal making goes, I think New Year's time is the #1 goal making season for the whole year. And yet only half of adults will even bother to make any goals at New Year's time. Okay? Now there's lots of different reasons why that may happen, but it's interesting to me that only half of people ever bother to even make goals. Now of those that do make goals, here's some interesting statistics for you. 22% fail after 1 week. If any of you guys have gym memberships, you go into the gym the first couple of weeks after the New Year's because everybody's made a goal to get more healthy. It's a pretty common goal. You go into the gym and the place is packed. You can't get on a machine. The locker rooms are crowded. There aren't any lockers left for you, and it's just nuts. But all of the long-time goers there know to be they'll grumble a little bit, but they know to be a little bit patient because after 1 month, it's a ghost town again. Everybody, they paid for a year membership. They're committed to a year membership. It's going to come out of their bank account every month, and yet typically they don't have to wait very long. The consistent long-time goers at the gym, they don't have to wait very long for the gym to empty out again. So 22% of those that make goals, which are only half of Americans anyways, 22% quit after a week. Nearly half after 1 month, and a full half have quit after just 3 months. 60% after 6 months, and the good news here, I think, is that 81% after 24 months have quit. In other words, about 20% keep going. Now, if you remember that only 50% made the goal in the first place, what you're looking at is 10% of the population after 2 years continue with their goals or their objectives. 10% of the population. Now, if that's not ringing any bells in your head, then you haven't attended enough of my trainings. Because when you start attending a lot of trainings or reading a lot of books, especially self-help books or business books or anything, you run into an interesting phenomenon. And I believe it's called the Pareto principle or the 80-20 rule. But what it says is that 20% of the people do 80% of the work. and 20% of the people make 80% of the money. Now, I think it's skewed even more than that. I think it's 10% of the people. If I look at my brokerage numbers, it's easy to pick my top 10 agents, and they literally do 90% of the transactions for the year. My top 10 agents do 90% of the volume for the whole brokerage throughout the year. And I think that carries across the board to most companies and to most people. It's a 90-10 rule. And if you look at that, it has a direct correlation, almost identical, with the New Year's statistics. 20% of the half of people that even bother to make goals are only going. So in other words, only 10% of the total Americans actually make goals and continue on with them. So the question that we have to ask ourselves next is, well, first of all, how do we get in that top 10%? But what do we need to do to avoid the 90% that quit? Because if they're quitting and they're in the group that isn't making any money, well, we don't want to be in that group. So we want to understand not only how to avoid that group, but how to get in the top 10. And that's what this training is about. Now, it's not as simple as goals, okay, because we all make goals, but then so many people quit on those goals. So we have to take a little bit more deeper look into, because if it was just a question of making goals, everybody that made a goal would be more wealthy, right? They would be more successful. And yet 50% of the people that make goals, or 80% of those that make goals, eventually quit those goals. So what do we want? We want to look for not just how to make goals, which is what we're focusing on next week, but how do we make goals that stick to us? And that's the important first ingredient that we need to take time to do, all right? So there's two basic areas for failure to move toward your goals. There's conscious and unconscious reasons. And this comes from a lot of studies that I've done in preparation for this training. And the conscious reasons are typically fairly easy. Unconscious are more difficult to address. We're going to address both of them today. Here's the conscious ones. I just don't know where to start. I've got a goal. I want to make $100,000 a year in real estate. And I think that's a great, not just a beginner goal, I think it's a good consistent goal for a realtor to have. If you want to make more than that, that's fantastic. But at $100,000, you can pay your bills. You usually can start building up a retirement with that. It's a decent lifestyle, okay? So let's say that that's our goal. I want to make $100,000 a year in real estate. Well, one of the first questions that should pop into your head if you're brand new to real estate, you don't know where to start. I know that was my first question. I had no idea. My company didn't offer any training. I started going around asking other agents. The successful agents wouldn't tell me because they didn't want me to be their competition. The unsuccessful agents shared all sorts of crazy ideas with me that when I probed into it, they didn't really pay off. They barely broke even at best. So not knowing where to start, that's a real legitimate reason why you wouldn't hit your goal. It may not be realistic for where you are now. Now, I think hitting $100,000 a year in real estate is realistic for anybody that commits to a full-time real estate career. Now, if you're working 50 hours a week at another job and you have 10 hours a week for real estate, it might not be realistic for you. But it's something that you could wean yourself towards it. It's not too hard to replace most jobs out there. You know, if they're paying you $30,000 or $50,000 a year, somewhere in the middle there with salary, if you did one transaction a month, it would completely replace that. And then you could easily build up to 2 or 3 transactions a month once you had more time. The goal might be too big. You feel overwhelmed with it, not enough information or time to accomplish the goal. You just didn't take action, or you procrastinated. You didn't have the right resources. You put others' needs before your own. I'm going to talk about that one a lot. That's a favorite excuse for any of you that are fans of the Biggest Loser TV show. It's one of the favorite excuse of, and I don't mean to be picking on any genders here, but it seems to come from women more often. And I know I hear it a lot from my wife, that there's all the kids and they have all these needs, and I keep telling her the kids' needs aren't any more important than your own. You got to take care of yourself. And if that means that a little kid cries for a little while, that's not going to break them. You know, they're good at crying. It doesn't hurt them at all. They can cry for a half hour while you take care of yourself. And after a while, they learn not to cry at all. They learn to entertain themselves, play a little bit. So, but putting other needs before your own is quite often an excuse that people justify because it makes them feel good. They feel a little bit like a martyr, maybe. They're giving more of themselves. but it doesn't help anybody when you drive your health into the ground like the Biggest Loser contestants have, because then you have nothing to give to anybody, let alone yourself. All right? Maybe it's a goal that someone else expects of you, not really what you want to do. So there's a lot of conscious reasons that can hold us back. Now, on the unconscious level, these are much more difficult to address, but we'll again address these today. And as far as your homework goes, it's being aware of these things, that they're out there, can help bring them to your conscious level where you can more easily handle them. One of the basic ones that I find really hurts people is they have a belief in opposition or conflict with their goal. For example, many people grew up, including myself, with the saying that money is the root of all evil. And I actually believed it came from the Bible, which it doesn't. I heard a funny comedian yesterday talking about that, how many people make arguments based on the Bible when they're not based on the Bible at all. They're quoting some rock star or movie star or Shakespeare or whatever, and money is the root of all evil, or the love of money is the root of all evil, is actually a quote from Shakespeare. But that's what I grew up with. I thought it was biblical. And so I had this idea that somehow being wealthy made me a sinner, if I can be blunt. And, you know, my parents, we were very poor growing up. I came from a one-income earning family. My father was a teacher. He hired himself out in his spare time to work the farms in the surrounding neighborhoods to try to bring us some extra money. But man, we were poor growing up. And so we had this idea that money was the root of all evil. And I thought for myself that $100,000 a year, man, that was the pinnacle. If you hit that, you were rich. And what I found an interesting thing with myself is that once I hit that, several years ago, for the first time in my life, or in the life of anybody in my family, once I hit that, I didn't know what to do with myself. And I found myself subconsciously undermining efforts to go very far beyond that. You know, I would close a lot of deals and then I would relax. Or instead of working 10 hours a day or 12 hours a day or whatever I'd done to get there, I'd find myself paring back to, you know, I'd work 3 or 4 hours a day, 2 hours on some days, and then I'd go golfing or whatever. You know, I was enjoying the high life. But really the truth of it was, I didn't feel like if I earned more than that, $100,000, then I was being wealthy and I was being somehow evil. And so I would constantly undermine myself. Somehow it would even manifest itself in sickness. I would get sick, and that would be an excuse. And it was like my body was creating some kind of internal block for what my mind believed, and to justify what my mind believed. Okay, there's fear of failure, there's self-doubt, fear of change. Change is always a little bit scary. Not believing you deserve to succeed. You worry about feeling foolish or what others would think. This is a big one for me, because whenever you step away from the crowd, and if the crowd is the 90% that are poor, and you're going to step away and break out from that, you're going to get a little bit of lashback. Okay, people are going to make comments that you're crazy for doing what you're doing. You know, you shouldn't be making those types of sacrifices, or whatever it is that they want to say. But the bottom line is, you worry about feeling foolish, and so you do the bare minimum, and you find yourself pulled back into the crowd. And it could be a stress response due to an old coping skill. So there's lots of unconscious reasons that cause us to not hit our goal. And a lot of them, again, we're not aware of them. We just find ourselves subconsciously holding ourselves back from breaking through the glass ceiling that we've created for ourselves. Okay? All right. So let's look at some solutions. Now, next week we're going to be talking specifically about goals. So with the conscious struggle, when we make SMART goals, now SMART is an acronym. I learned back in college, and then I changed a couple of the letters because I thought they were redundant. So this is my version of the SMART acronym. Specific, measurable, action-oriented, realistic goals with a time limit. Okay? SMART goals. When we make SMART goals, it addresses almost every area of the conscious struggle. I don't know where to start. Well, if it's specific, measurable, and action-oriented, then yeah, there's some work involved to get to that point of making your goal a SMART goal. you've got to put some more thought into it rather than I just want to work, or I just want to earn $100,000 a year. And next week, if you'll join me, I'll break it down exactly how for you to create a SMART goal that will help you hit that $100,000 a year. It's exactly what I did the first year that I hit 100,000. Actually, I fell just shy at 96,000 the first year I made that goal. The next year I went over that. But I'll tell you exactly what I did to hit it, okay? The exact steps of how I broke it down to make it a SMART goal, and it worked. And I'll share that with you next week. But the SMART goals address all of these concerns, all right? Negative thoughts, putting others' needs before your own. Again, if you've got specific, detailed action steps that you're going to be taking, you just do it. All right? So, again, we'll spend more time on that next week. What I want to focus on today is the solution to the unconscious struggles. All right? Now, for this, we're going to start at the inside out. There's 5 steps that we need to take to address, and this is going to comprise your homework for the week, okay? These 5 steps that you need to take to identify, first of all, maybe some of the unconscious struggles that you face, but to more effectively develop a solution so that those unconscious struggles no longer hold you back, so that you quit making your own glass ceiling, all right? So the first step is finding out what you really want out of life. Once you've done that, you've overcome a big obstacle, because a lot of people don't ever take the time to find out what they really want. They get caught up in competing with the neighbors and buying a bigger house, fancier car, and it literally drives them to their grave. They're not happy with what they've got. In fact, I remember back when real estate was booming, we had 2 general categories of articles that came across in our realtor magazines, and it seemed like everything fell into one of these 2 categories. One of them was how to become successful, and one of them was how to not lose everything of value to you because you had success. And I thought that was really interesting. People were losing their families. They were, they made these sacrifices that caused them to lose everything that was valuable, but they had their success there. And I think that comes a lot because they never took time to find out what they really wanted out of life. We'll go into that in a little bit more. Next, once you know what you really want, starting to develop habits in thought and action is a critical point in moving you forward. And most of the time, because most of us never take time to really figure out what we want, these habits haven't been developed at all. And we're taking really baby steps to move forward. That's okay. It's better that you start now. And you know what? And I've done this training for guys that were past retirement age. And they get excited about this. I've helped people stop smoking with this training. We've done some fun things with this, okay? Surround yourself with positive influences. That's a big one that we're going to address today. Next, you've got to fill your mind with positive thoughts that energize you. And last of all, identify and dismiss. Let go of the areas that hold you back. So let's get started with this. Find out what you really want out of life. Now, this is something, by the way, for those of you that don't know better, I don't email this presentation out to you for your notes. So you either take notes, or one of the things that you can use, and I got this idea from some of you last week, and I love it. Thank you, by the way. There's a software called Jing, J-I-N-G. It's free software. You can take screen captures with it and save those to your computer. For this training, if you want to do that for note purposes, I think it's a fantastic idea. Quick little screenshot, and there you go. You don't have to write anything down. So find out what you really want out of life. Now, this is an exercise that if you do it right, this will take you a couple of hours. Now, remember, you have to do your homework each week in order for you to experience the kind of growth that will get you to your end destination. Okay, if that's $100,000 a year, if it's happiness, whatever, do your homework each week, because everything builds on itself. All these principles build on each other. Now, I've got my affirmations right here in front of me. Now, when I first heard about affirmations, I cringed, okay, because my experience with affirmations was just cheesy stuff. Like me looking in the mirror and saying, I'm beautiful, I'm gorgeous, and whatever. I'm successful, I'm wealthy. I don't know. Also, it makes me even feel awkward just to repeat it even in a mocking sense. I can't say these things. And I've never been able to get myself to say these things. And if you like that and you can get yourself to do it, good for you. But I could never do it, okay? And so when I hired a personal coach, and I hired just a personal development coach, not a real estate coach, a personal development coach. But when I hired him, and it was a fairly expensive coach, it cost about $5,000 for several months. It was 3 months with additional follow-up for up to a year. But this was the very first thing that they wanted me to do. And I really pushed back against it, but they educated me on the science behind it. And I want to share that with you guys. So you don't have to go pay $5,000 for this knowledge. You can experience it right here for free. The science behind this in creating an affirmation is that you create a physical disparity between your reality now and where you want to become. And then or where you want to go with your life. And then if you repeat the affirmation consistently enough, then one of two things must happen, and this is the science behind it. One of two things must happen. Either you quit saying your affirmations because you're not moving forward, but the two can't coexist, or you start changing your lifestyle to reflect the things that you're telling yourself on a consistent basis. All right? Let me give you a couple examples. First of all, this is my personal example. When I read this in the morning, I act differently throughout the day. This is in the category of health and appearance. And you might think it sounds a little bit cheesy, but I picked one specifically that I felt good about and that energizes me. So I say in my category of health and appearance, I am 185 pounds of chiseled perfection. I have energy to do whatever I want. I am healthy and leading my family in a healthy lifestyle. Okay, it's a short, brief statement, but when I read that and I focus on that throughout the day, I think differently about the restaurants that I might stop and eat at because we're out on the road a lot as real estate agents. I think differently maybe about preparing some food in advance or some snacks, healthy snacks that I can take with me in the car, or filling up a water bottle rather than stopping and grabbing a big soda. But I act differently. When I read that I'm 185 pounds of chiseled perfection, it makes me want to get out of my chair and do some push-ups right there on my office floor or something. It inspires me to be a better person. And so I can either choose to keep reading that and be inspired, and I'm going to act differently when I read that, or I can choose to not read that any longer and just go on with a life that doesn't please me or doesn't make me happy. Now my choice is to read that on a daily basis. It does make me act differently. It does make me seek to understand my physical challenges better and find ways to overcome those. That's what I want for you guys to obtain, not just in a health sense like the example I gave you, but in every part of your life. This isn't just a real estate training. This is a life training right here. So here's how you do that. First of all, I want you to visualize what life you would like to create. Now, I'm not talking just real estate. This is everything. So for me, it helps me to close my eyes. And I'll close my eyes and I'll picture the ideal me. It's kind of like the title of our training today, Becoming Your Best You. And I picture this vision of my ideal self. And I see how I look physically, and it's not overweight, it's not tired, it's not beat up, it's not sick. That's not the ideal me that I visualize. I picture somebody that's got strength. I picture an older person because I don't know, just somebody a little bit more distinguished than I am. I don't know why I picture that, but that's what I do. I picture an older person that's a little bit distinguished, that's healthy and vibrant. And then I want you to expand out from that core of you, okay? I want you to start hearing the sounds, see your surroundings, imagine how it all feels, feel what it's like to be this person. And as you slowly expand out from yourself in this imagining, as you imagine this ideal you, I want you to think of the people around you. How does your spouse feel about you? How do they treat you? How do they see you? Right? What's your relationship with your children? And then expand a little bit further. You know, imagine the house that you're in and the car that you're in. Imagine the neighborhood that you're in. Imagine your neighbors and how they feel about you and your community and your role in that community. This is all part of what makes you up. okay? And this is the very first step. You need to do this before you ever create goals. Because if you make goals that you picked up from a billboard, for example, we get marketed to hundreds and hundreds of times every single day. People tell us what it is that we should be wanting out of life, that we should be wanting the bigger house, that we should be wanting the fancier car. You know what I find when I do this exercise live with people and they come back and they give me the feedback from it? I find that 90% of people don't want bigger. That's not truly the ideal them. The ideal them wants something comfortable. In fact, with many people, they come back and they decide they need a smaller house. But they've been drinking all this Kool-Aid of everything around them without ever taking the time to really decide for themselves what they want. They drink the Kool-Aid that says you need bigger, you need better, you need to compete with the Joneses or whatever it is. And the truth is they want a little bit smaller. They would prefer to have more time with family rather than spending 60, 70 hours a week at work. They would prefer to have a smaller house and have no debt at all and let go of that stress, just to be stress-free. What an ideal life that might be. They would prefer to maybe travel more than have a bigger house. Now, occasionally some people do want a bigger house, and that's just fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Okay, whatever you would like to have in your life, you should be able to pursue that. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But you have to take some time to decide what makes you happy. What is your ideal? And that doesn't come from what some rap artist tells you. It doesn't come from what a television ad tells you, or a billboard tells you, or the radio tells you, or your friends tell you, or I tell you. It comes from within you. So take some time to visualize this and really immerse yourself in it, in the feeling of being this person. Once you immerse yourself in that feeling, something happens within you. It's an inspiring exercise. Then I want you to nail that feeling down so that you can revisit that feeling on a daily basis, if not 2 or 3 times a day. Start with the words I am. So for example, I am 185 pounds of chiseled perfection. Use the present tense, even though I am not currently 185 pounds of chiseled perfection. When I say I am, it inspires me to be that person today. Okay, I am a healthy person today. I can't say I am becoming. I need to say I am, because that's a choice I make today. I only have the present to create myself. I don't have tomorrow. I don't have yesterday. I have right now that I can work on. And that's an I am word. Make it specific and brief. 2 or 3 sentences. That's it. Include at least one dynamic emotion or feeling word. To me, that was chiseled perfection. Okay? To me, that chiseled part, that really pinpoints that feeling for me that I want to have. Now, it's maybe not an emotion or a feeling word, but the chiseled gives me that feeling. Okay? Make it for yourself, not for others. This is something that is a hard lesson that a lot of us learn in life. You cannot change anybody else. We try really hard to change our spouses sometimes. We sometimes try hard to change our children. And the truth is, we're barely adequate at changing ourselves, and sometimes not so adequate. We have very bad habits that we know are bad that we have a tough time giving up. Focus just on yourself. That's a big enough bite for you to take. And then at the end, add the phrase or something better, because it keeps you open to the miracle of, if you refer to the book The Secret, they call it the universe. Some people call it God. Whatever it is, when you dedicate yourself down this path, miracles happen. And you can achieve greater things than you ever may have dreamed possible on your own. All right? Now, here's the categories. And I want you to jot these down, because in order for you to have a successful life, you have to address all of these categories. For example, if I am strictly successful in my financial and business life because I work 80 hours a week, there is a strong likelihood that I've neglected my health along the way. There's a strong likelihood I may have neglected my family along the way, like those realtor articles I mentioned to you. Okay, relationships, personal development, those things may have suffered because I was too heavy in this area. That's why I don't want to just give you real estate training today. Because if you lose your health, you're not going to eventually be a very good real estate agent. You're going to lose everything. If you lose your free time, or if you lose your family in the process, then all of a sudden this other stuff doesn't matter as much. And you start to let it slide. So in order for you to truly be successful in one of these categories, you need to address all of these categories. All right? So don't get yourself lopsided. Don't just treat this as a way to make some business goals. This is a life creator here. We are creating your best you, and that's not just about real estate. You're not just a real estate agent. So jot down these categories. Then if we go back a page, do this experience. Create an affirmation in every one of those categories. All right? Okay, so I've spent a lot of time on that one, but that's important. Now, the next thing, now that you've done that, and you've got this clear vision in your mind that you can, because you read it every day, you can grab that vision quickly in your head. I want you to cross-check your existing goals with this vision of the ideal you. Are they compatible? Okay? Once you have this vision of the ideal you, look at your existing goals. Are they compatible? In most cases, they're somewhat compatible. They need a few tweaks. Okay? In some cases, they're not compatible at all. And you realize that you've adopted somebody else's goals for you, and you need to let those go in order to create your ideal person. So go through that, and we're going to be tweaking our goals, and we'll do that again more next week. Now that we've decided and know what we truly want ourselves to become in this life, now we're going to go on to step 2, developing small habits, baby steps, if you will, that will lead us to that point. Now, let's see, what was the book that this idea came from? I think it was How to Stop Worrying and Start Living by Dale Carnegie, I think is the author. Fantastic book. I highly recommend it to anybody. But he calls it living in day-tight compartments. Okay? Now, I actually taught a Sunday school class on this last week because it's got a lot of religious roots. There's a lot of roots of this in some of the Eastern religions as well, as far as living in the now moment, right? That yesterday is gone, tomorrow doesn't exist. All we have is now. And there's a power in that. You know, if you look to the Bible, and I'm not going to give you guys Sunday school lessons, but there's some great wisdom in the Bible regardless of your beliefs. And so we're going to draw from that. And in the Bible, I believe it's at the last verse in Matthew 6. It's Matthew 6 or 7. But it says, "Take therefore no thought for the morrow shall take thought for the things of itself. Sufficient is the day unto the evil thereof." Now, what that means to me, and if you go to the Lord's Prayer, it also says that. It says, "Give us this day our daily bread." They're not worrying about their yearly bread, their retirement bread. Let's see what we can do today. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't plan ahead. It doesn't mean that you squander everything that you have today. And in fact, if you get into that emotion, give us this day our daily bread, I think you'll actually accomplish much, much more than if you were to spend time worrying about the future and less time accomplishing things today. That's what I find in myself. When I focus on those thoughts, living in day-tight compartments, I become extremely productive, and I use my time today very, very well. So rather than wasting a whole bunch of time in front of the TV, I'm more likely to take my family out and go for a walk with them because I'm living fully in the now moment. I'm addressing, because one of my affirmations that I didn't share with you has to do with my family and my relationships. And so spending more time with them and less time in front of the TV, which interestingly enough doesn't make any of my affirmations, makes me a better person. So I'm fully in the present. So here's what I do. I've got my affirmations because I did that homework, right? I review my affirmations daily, morning and night, so twice a day. I know the type of person that I want to become. Therefore, I think differently about the foods I eat, the exercise that I do, the way that I spend my time, the appointments that I'll take, and when I'll take those appointments, because I'm not going to neglect all the important things in order to make an extra buck. There's got to be some balance there. Okay? Calendar action items into your daily plan, business and personal, that will lead you closer to becoming your ideal you. So I actually go in and calendar this out. Now, I made up a little form. In fact, I'll pause the screen here while I find it, and I'll pull it up for you. Okay. This is a form that I made up. I call it the AMP form, Amplify My Progress. And every morning I take this, I print it out, and fill it out for myself. And it has a little checklist. Did I review my goals for the day? Did I exercise? These are some things that I need to do every day. Did I take time to plan and prioritize my day in advance? And did I educate myself? Okay. Then I get my head in the right spot by remembering all the things I'm grateful for. I try not to approach life with the attitude that I need. Okay, I need this, because that eats away at your soul, I think. So approach life with an attitude of gratitude. Next, I plan out the top 20 people that I need to call that day in order to realize my goals. Right? Now that could be people I need to build a relationship. It could be my accountant to take care of taxes. Okay, it could be my mom because it's her birthday or her anniversary, or it could be some of my clients. But this is a part of my well-rounded day, so it's not necessarily all real estate related. Okay, I'm becoming my best me in every area here. Then I'm going to pick my Fab 5, and I've got 10 spots here for a few more ideas, but these are the top 5 activities I'm going to take. Now, an interesting thing happens when you take control of your day and you actually plan things out in advance. You accomplish a whole lot of stuff. Whereas if you don't plan things out in advance and you're just reactionary, then all you've done is respond to everybody else's fires, and yet you haven't ever moved forward on the things that are important to you. And that is a problem. At the end of the day, I take a moment to write down some of the things that made that day a success. Maybe some of the things that derailed me so that I can learn more for tomorrow. All right? So, live in day-tight compartments. Focus on the small daily tasks. Yesterday is gone, so don't fret over past failures. Don't eat yourself up with guilt. Just live today being that better person. Tomorrow never comes, so don't worry about the enormity of the task. Focus on what you can do right now, today. Folks, there's magic in doing this. In the relief of stress that this brings into your life, because you're not focused on these gigantic things. You just focus on, you know what, I can make 10 calls today. That's not too bad. I can exercise 20 minutes today. I can go for a walk today. I'm not worried about losing 20 pounds. That might seem daunting to me. It might seem frustrating. But something that is easy, I can go out for a walk. I can do that today. I can eat healthier today. All of those things become very simple decisions to make on a small daily basis, whereas making a big goal like, I need to lose 20 pounds or 30 pounds or whatever it is, that might seem more daunting. And yet the right now decisions are much easier. So live in day-tight compartments. All right, so we know what we really want. We're taking baby steps in developing new habits that will lead us to that point. We plan each day in advance. The next thing that we need to do is surround ourselves with positive influence. You are like your 5 closest friends. That's a saying from one of the other self-development books I've read. I've read enough. I wish I could give you the quote for or the reference for all of these, but they all kind of mix together in my mind. Some of you will probably know. But you are like your 5 closest friends is a saying from one of these books that I've read, and it makes sense. Now, let me share with you guys an experience. I have a friend whose daughter struggles with a drug addiction. She got into the drug addiction through her husband, and in the process of going through rehab, was counseled actually by the people at rehab that she needed to avoid all of her previous friends that had anything to do with that lifestyle, including even her husband. That's how serious this is for people that have drug addictions. That even if it's their spouse, if that spousal partner is involved in a drug-related habit, or that can lead you back down that path, they even recommend avoiding your spouse when you check out of rehab, because they have such an incredibly high rate of return when people fall back in with their friends. So here's how this works for us in our life. Hopefully we're not struggling with drug addictions or problems like that, but with all of our challenges that we have in life, we become like our 5 closest friends. Okay? Here's what I would like to challenge you guys to do. Become a part of a community of people who share and work together. Call it a mastermind group or whatever you like to call it. But find other people that are dedicated to constant improvement. It does make a difference. I've been a part of a mastermind group for several years now. We just get together once a month. We share our goals with each other. And it's amazing to me how often I hit those goals because there's a mastermind group, a little bit of accountability, and I'm surrounded by people that are growing, that are idea generators. It's fun. Okay, it makes life a little bit more exciting, and the growth is always fun. Next, love your friends and family unconditionally, but don't stoop to their level. Live your best life so as to inspire them. Now, a lot of times this is part of that those unconscious struggles that we have that we don't want to cause discomfort maybe in a relationship or something, so we hold ourselves back. Folks, that doesn't help anybody, and it's not, in my mind, an accurate feeling. I think everybody loves a hero. It may make us uncomfortable, but it inspires us to be better. Inspire your friends and your family. Inspire your coworkers in your office. Okay? You will eventually find some friends unattractive to you. What that means is that as you become your best person, some people will insist on being gloomy. They will insist on living in the dumps. Okay? They will insist on focusing on how hard this economy is. Man, we can't close anything. Those people become unattractive to you. Now, the interesting thing is that you've become unattractive to them as well, because you're always upbeat. You're closing transactions. They feel guilty when they're around you because they never close deals, and all they have to justify that so that they don't feel like they're lazy or whatever, all they have to justify that are these complaints about the economy, which you're disproving on a daily basis. And so they find that they don't like to hang out with you. Now, understand that that's okay. It's just a natural part of growth or evolution, the evolution of yourself. It's okay. Let it be. You will in turn, you're not going to be losing friends. Okay, you'll still maintain a relationship there, but other people that are aggressive, that have positive attitudes, they will be drawn to you, and you're going to create a whole new group of friends. And you can still get together with the other friends every once in a while, maybe hang out a little bit or something. And maybe if they don't see you for a month or two and they come back and you're healthier, you're happier than you were before, and because of a little bit of time and distance separation, maybe now you're more inspiring to them rather than a source of guilt. Okay, so don't let that stuff hold you back. Okay, allow yourself to be inspiring. Next, we're going to need to fill our mind. All right, so get your head in the game. Make daily study a habit that you cherish. Read good, inspiring books. Listen to books on tape in your car. Use inspirational music. Folks, this is a big one. And as real estate agents, we have lots of opportunities to drive. I don't know how many of you have iPods or iPads. I've got a Nook that I download a lot of books to. I've got my iPad that I download. I call them books on tape still. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to call them, audiobooks. Folks, I get a lot of value out of my drive time. Now, am I always doing that? No. Sometimes I just need to relax, give my mind a break. Sometimes I'll turn everything off and just allow myself to think. Sometimes I listen to music. But if we fill our minds with negative things, then eventually we will become negative people. All right? We become what's in our head. So increase your expertise, but make this a daily habit. Invest a little bit in yourself. Okay, some of these books that I mention in here, because I'm always referring to some of the books that I've read in these trainings. If you haven't read them, or maybe you have, but it's been a while, go buy these books, download them onto your iPod, listen to them in the car. But they can make a big difference in your life. And last of all, identify and dismiss areas that have held you back. Now, this is a lot easier said than done, but let's talk about it, okay? There are speed bumps along the way. There's self-defeating thoughts, friends or family that mock, inner beliefs that are not accurate. Maybe somebody hurt you, okay? And there's a lot of us out there that have been hurt in the past. We've had people do some terrible things to us. Some of us have gone through counseling. Some haven't, maybe because it's embarrassing what we've gone through. And I think, based on my studies and my personal experience, that the key to overcoming these things, whether you've talked to a counselor or not, the key to overcoming these things is to recognize that we're all human beings. Human beings make mistakes. Some of them are huge, and some of them affect other people in very big, sometimes negative ways. But we're all human beings. We all make mistakes. And learning to let those things go, learning to forgive other people. You don't have to hang out with people that hurt you. All right, that's part of what we talked about, is surrounding yourself with good, positive people. That's important. But learning to forgive and let those things go can be vital to our health and our personal progress. Not holding grudges for people that hurt us, not spending any emotional time or stress on worrying about how successful or how painful their life might be or anything like that, is vital for us moving ahead and becoming the ideal person that we want to be. I had an incident in my life once where I talked to an advisor where somebody had done something that I considered to be a terrible thing, and I talked to this advisor and he shared something with me. He said to me that I was being, let's see, how did he put it? Basically, I was being held in chains by that person, that I was that person's slave. And I said that's bullcrap. You know, I was pretty direct, so I had some strong feelings at the time. And you know, I said I'm not anybody's slave, especially this guy's. This, you know, what he's done is unforgivable. And he says, you know, the longer you hold on to that thought, then he is controlling you. He's controlling you remotely. He doesn't even realize he's controlling you, but he is controlling your life, and you're giving it away to him the more you worry about what he's done. Move on and take control of your own life. It was fantastic advice at the time, something that at the time I thought was a major deal for me. Life has taught me that things get worse, but the advice carries true through all the other circumstances. So here's your homework assignment today. First of all, take the time to do these exercises. Make your affirmations and decide who you want to become. Next week we'll focus more on building your goals, making them SMART goals, things like that, all right? But review your goals that you have now. Kind of have an idea so that you're prepared for next week's assignment. Fine-tune what goals you have to be in line with your affirmations, and next week again we'll help you some more with that. But practice living in day-tight compartments for 1 week. Try it for just 1 week. Guys, this is powerful. And then keep a journal of what you learn about yourself. I've got a comment in here. Oh, it's just a thank you. You're welcome, by the way. But this living in day-tight compartments is a powerful, powerful exercise. Okay, plan each day out in advance. Just do it for 1 week. You will be absolutely amazed at the piles of stuff that disappear from your desk when you're living in the now. When you're planning things out in advance, you'll be amazed at the kind of progress that you can make. So that's the homework assignment, guys. Go get it. And I will see you online next week. Have a great weekend. By the way, as always, if you have any ideas for trainings or things that you would like to be trained on, please email me. I've recently acquired a new recording software. Hopefully this recording works today, but I've acquired a new software that allows me to do some little mini recordings that we're going to be posting on the Equity Archive for all of you guys. So that will be accessible to you as well. Thank you. Have a great week, and good luck with this homework. Bye-bye.